Hello my friends and welcome back to EVE Online with me, Mark from DadX, and we're here in the hangar with Furia and her fabulous Thorax. Now we built this ship in response to a couple of comments actually about the Thorax, and I hadn't really used it in a video, and could I show it running some sites and suggest some fits, because they were having trouble. One guy said specifically he was having trouble killing the rats. Right, so we've made a fit that's designed to kill rats. That's one of the roles, isn't it? So we'll get cracking. Up here in the top slots, I've got 5 150mm dual railguns, prototype Gauss guns. They've got good tracking, they've got a reasonable range, they aren't the highest damage option, but bear with me. We've got the compact Stasis Webifier in the mid slots to slow down the enemy if they get in close to us. Hopefully they shan't be. We've got the compact Microwarpdrive, because as you'll know from seeing any of my other videos of running sites, that I think the Microwarpdrive, if you use it just when you need to pull range, it's not an issue about how it could impact your cap, because you only cycle it once or twice maybe in a whole site. It's the best way of pulling range if you get into a situation where the swarm of rats is on you and the DPS is overwhelming. So I swear by them, for this application at least. We've got the large lead acid cap battery in here, just giving us a nice boost to the capacitor. Let's just check how big that boost is, because I can't remember. So that is giving us, with 22% increased newt bonus, that's not very relevant, but we're getting 1,430 gigajoules of cap, and that actually equates to a big chunk of what we've got here. Look, if we switch that off, going from 1,300 to nearly 2,600 right there, doubling it. There you go, easy peasy. We got the tracking computer right here running a tracking speed script. You might notice a theme with this fit. It's all about the application. We've obviously got a medium armor repairer here, which is going to be powered by our capacitor to keep us alive, and his friend, the Reactive armor hardener. Now that's an active module. It needs to cycle. It uses a bit of cap, but it's not cap heavy. But what you'll find when we're fighting the Serpentis, because they're only going to be doing thermal and kinetic damage, I'll show you when we're on a site and it's taking hits, or we're taking hits, that those resistances will adjust to 30% kinetic resistance, 30% thermal resistance, just what we need. And should we be in low sec and get into any kind of shenanigans there, it will adjust itself to whatever we're getting hit by. Very useful module. Next to it, we've got one magnetic field stabilizer too, just to up the raw damage of the guns. Why not? A little bit more pew is always useful. But next to him, we've got a compact tracking enhancer, because I want the pew to hit the target. That's key here. Damage control unit 2, no surprises there. Resistant boosts across the board, and even more relevant with an armor tank ship, maybe than a shield ship. Shield ships I might sometimes leave a damage control off. It depends on the application and the balance of the fit. Of course, it always does. In the rig slots, we've got the metastasis adjuster, which again is another tracking enhancing boost to the ship. We've got the rate of fire boosted by the burst aerator. Bear in mind, these two rigs, because they're working on the hybrid weapons, they increase the power grid need of the guns. So that could affect your fitting. Mitigated that, as I've shown you before, by training the hybrid weapons rigging skill. That mitigates that. So train those rigging skills, whatever you use, make sure you've got those skills, because this can make the difference between a level or two of that can just make the difference between a fit working for you or not. And then we've got even more capacitor boost here in the form of a 15% reduction in recharge time for the capacitor. So we've got that to boost the recharge time. We've got a big fat battery to double the capacity of our capacitor and keep everything running. So the tank is a combination of the Microwarpdrive to control range, the armor repper obviously, and the Reactive armor hardener, and all the capacitor rigs really are just to keep that tank running should we need to keep it running a lot. Obviously hybrid weapons do need some capacitor. They are using up power. Not very heavy, not the biggest issue, as we'll see. We also have the drone bay. So I've got one flight of Hobgoblin 2s, one flight of Hornet 2s, appropriate to fighting Serpentis. I might keep them split, I might mix them up. We're going to simulate the fit. We got 250 DPS. That's a nice high number, but with these tracking enhancements, we've got the boosts hopefully to actually hit stuff with them. It's not a huge 27.44 is not great at all, but we'll see. We don't want to be missing the frigates. They're going to come and try and swarm us. We've got the drones, but we can't rely too much on the drones because they can take aggro, and they do take their time. Some of these sites are quite big. There will be cruisers, there will be battle cruisers involved, but when we look at sites like the Refuge, the Hideaway, the Den, the Narcotics warehouse, which is what we're about to run right now, they're very heavy on the frigates and the destroyers, so you don't need a big, powerful gun. You want a gun that can hit them, and that's why I've gone for the dual 150s and one rig, one low slot and one mid slot to boost tracking on the guns, and only two to boost the DPS, one the rate of fire, one the raw damage number. But it's all about the tracking, and of course the drones are going to help a lot too. The price here, 35 million, I just want you to bear in mind that is because we are so self-sufficient. You actually open the cargo hold. Can I open the cargo hold, please? We're carrying a mobile depot, 200mm prototype Gauss guns, and the parts we need to fit them. So to fit these guns, when we're on a site such as, say, a Vigil or maybe a Watch where there are more bigger ships, we might want to up the gun DPS. We don't need the tracking, so we can move the fit around. We'll look at it when we need it. It's basically about taking off the tracking enhancer and replacing it with a reactive control unit, so we've got enough power grid to fit the guns, and reducing the cap battery from a large to a medium for the same reason, to reduce power grid usage by that battery. So we've got less tank and we've got more pew. As always, it's a balance. Of course, there's a warp disruptor, you never know. And we've got sisters probes I'm only going to use if we need to, for stuff we can't scan down with the regular probes. Combat scanner probes I've got with me. I haven't got an expanded probe launcher to check. Yeah, I guess you could have one of those with you and look for drones, abandoned fighters, maybe an MTU if you want to do that kind of thing. A mess about that way. I've also got the optimal range script. Remember, the scripts for the mid slot units aren't consumable. You only need one of each to use them. When you've got something running in the top slots, like shield links and stuff like that, they consume those scripts. Mid slots don't. So you only need one of each. Don't go and buy one of them. You don't need them. We've got antimatter, up close and personal. Federation antimatter only for if we really, really need to, and I'm thinking probably more in low sec, if you see what I mean with that. Fourier is like a mid-range ammo. It's what is loaded at the moment. It's got a 25 kilometer fall off, and the optimal is 16. Now, when I run this site, I am going to really be looking to keep the enemy in that kind of range. I don't want them much closer than 16 kilometers. If they do get closer, I might switch to antimatter. If I switch to antimatter, won't let me out because I'm in the simulation. If I switch to antimatter, we are then looking at the ranges coming down to 18 fallout, just under 9.5 optimal. So we're getting more DPS that way, about 50 more DPS by the look of it. But we don't really want the rats getting in that close. If they're close enough for us to be damaging them properly with our antimatter, they're close enough to be hitting us a lot. So we don't really want that situation unless we choose to put ourselves into it, maybe to close in on the one big rat, kill him quickly. But that's all to do with how we're flying the site. Then the last option is tungsten, which is the longest range. It's the lowest DPS. It takes us just under 200 total DPS. But again, the fallout range is now 35, the optimal is 26. So when we land, we're going to make sure we stay between 25-30 kilometers, I'm going to say. Give us a little bit of leeway. We'll see how it plays out as we go along. But we're using the Microwarpdrive and clicking. We're not going to be really doing much orbiting or approaching. This is mostly clicking around the site to drag the rats where we want, keep them where they want them, pull range when we want, and only close on them when we want to. Maybe some kind of, like the loot grab in the Vigil. When the loot guy runs out after you, you turn around, you hit him, you run in and get it and get out. But that's a specific circumstance and not the general way we're going to play it. So anyway, let's get cracking, shall we? I think I've covered everything there. I'm sure you'll let me know in a comment if I haven't. Any questions, clarifications, anything like that, please comment. Always welcome. I do make an effort to answer every comment I get, especially if it requires an answer as in a question, etc. I might not see them straight away. I am quite busy. I will get to them, but please feel free. And if I don't answer your question, post another comment saying, "Oi, you didn't answer my question," and I will get to it. Promise. Right, off we go. Now we got this escalation off of a Serpentis Refuge, and they're very easy quick sites to run, and you find it up here in your exploration area of your agency. They are timed, do bear that in mind, and the timer that is on your escalation sheet there, that does include you running the site. I did go to an escalation and thought, brilliant, I got here with like 2 minutes to spare and the whole site despawned around me. Do bear that in mind. For information about how to make sure a site escalates if it can, and which sites can and can't escalate, I always turn to that Eve Wiki Combat Site Guide page. I'll put a link in the description if I remember. If I don't, ask me to in a comment, or on the Discord. We do have Discord and I'll be spending more time in there. I noticed that a few of you now just sitting there and chat amongst yourselves, which is great. I hope to spend a bit more time in there myself, now that work and stuff is a little bit different to how it has been for the last while. So I'm at the gate. I'm just tidying up my drones because I ended up with the hobgoblins in a group called Hornets and the Hornets in a group called hobgoblins. So yeah, admin error. Not that it makes a huge amount of difference really in this site. So off we go. We've got the thorium ammo preloaded. That's the ammo we intend to run most of the site with. Oh, just while I remember, sorry for some of the audio skips during the fitting section. It's something to do with the recording software on the PC. I'm recording this narration in the editing software and hopefully we're not having that issue. So apologies, but I'm fixing it. Anyway, we're in. Just start targeting these guys up and shooting them. I'm not going to put the drones out. I'm going to just see how the guns get on. I haven't actually put the tracking computer on either yet. So as you'll see, we can apply damage. Because even without the tracking computer on, we've still got the tracking enhancer down in the low slot. We've got the rig boosting the tracking. So we're pretty good at shooting frigates with our dual 150mm railguns. If they get in very close, that story will change. The web will help. But if any of them do, and maybe I'll just let some of them get in, maybe about 5,000 meters and below, then they're going to be very hard for me to hit with these guns, no matter how much I've enhanced my tracking. I'm thinking in situations like that, maybe the drones take care of the ones that do get in close, leave the guns focused on the ones that are further away. So now we're just going to move into range of the next guys. We can change the ammo to tungsten, gives us a 35km fall off, and just start picking them off. Once they're within 40 kilometers, they're also within drone range, so we'll start sending the drones out. We'll keep an eye on the drone screen to make sure they're not getting a bashing. If necessary, we'll just recall the whole lot. We won't do anything too tricky. If you recall your drones, then the rats will aggro back onto you, and hopefully once you relaunch your drones, the aggro will stay off of the drones and on you. Not always the case, it really depends. Some sites have some really nasty rats that will really hit your frigates hard. A watch has a spawn of about 5 or 6 elite frigates in one level, and they will kill your drones. They'll ignore you and go for your drones no matter what you do. You can see exactly where I'm going with this, I'm sure. It's the same technique as I used with the destroyers. Only to be honest, we're in a cruiser, so we've got a lot more hit points, a lot more tank, and a lot more leeway. So, although the cruiser is the more expensive way of clearing, certainly a 3 out of 10, it is the safer way. So if you've got the budget, what I'm basically trying to get to say, try it in a cruiser, learn the technique. It's the same technique that I use with the destroyers, only it's a lot more easy going. As you can see, I'm moving in. I'm now into pretty much range of the thorium, so I could change the ammo. But I'm new to this bit, so I'm trying everything out, and the tungsten ammo is still doing the job even as I close the range, so why not? These frigates, and most of the rats on these sites really, are quite flimsy individually, as I've said before. The problem is when they can get to swarm you, so if you can just pick them off, you're not going to have any problems at all. I'm bringing my drones in before I get to the gate, and one of them just got slightly into armor there by the look of it. The shields will regen while he's back in the drone hold, but the armor won't. But that's okay. And I'm just going to check on the good old Eve Uni Wiki Combat Site page, as I mentioned earlier, just to check, because I haven't run one of these sites for a little while. what's worth looking at. I think there's one guy I've got to get the key off of course, but it's always handy to stop and see what's going to be in the next room of a site, and just remind yourself of where the loot might be hiding, because I have seen many a site, in fact this particular one, the Narcotics warehouse, where every rat has been killed, they've been looted, they might have even been salvaged because there's no wrecks around, but the loot box is sat there. Because I guess they just don't know where the loot actually is. If they looked on that page, they would have known what they've got to blow up to get the good stuff. So we're just going to move in and blow up the supply traffic management structure. We'd switch to antimatter to do that a little bit quicker. Since we're going to be nice and close anyway, why not? Might as well make sure our batch of ammo works, eh? And then on to the next room, and I shall meet you there. We're going to go through the security gate. And here we go. I have another quick check on the wiki. What have we got in the security room? A big pile of frigates. So yeah, we definitely don't want to get mobbed by them. So let's see how quickly we can tidy them all up. You can go back round, warp out of the site, walk back through the first room, go through the gate, say in this case the traffic management gate, and clear that room as well. There's a chance of you getting a little bit of extra loot. To be honest with you, time is money, so I tend to just get on and do the next site. Right, again, I'll land in the room. The enemies are exactly where I want them range-wise for my thorium ammo. You can get your ship moving. I'm just sat here right now, and obviously your ship being stationary does reduce the tracking issues as well, because you're not adding to it. But I'm just going to suss out where we are in the room, where the crowd is, because obviously there's quite a mob of them, and I'm just going to fly away, and that way they've got to chase me out. They're probably quicker than me, so they will close range. If I need to bash me Microwarpdrive to pull a little bit of range, I shall. But I really can't see us having a big issue here. In fact, I think we're going to get a lot more out of this Thorax, and over time, that is what we shall do until it is against that wall where it is either dead or it just cannot finish the site for some reason. But this is our starting point. It's obviously a fit, as you can see, that's giving us lots of leeway for you to kind of learn the ropes, learn your way around. Look at them all, but we're not scared. They're miles away anyway, so now we're going to turn back into them. Just manage the range, pick them off, put the right ammo in the guns at the right time. So now we're going to go to tungsten so we can start hitting some of these guys straight away. I've got the tracking computer running. Obviously we haven't had to rep, we haven't had to put the reactive armor hardener on because we haven't got anywhere near getting into armor. Maybe we will at some stage of the site. Right, I'll whack this up to 4 times speed now, guys. I'm sure you can just keep up with what's going on. We're just going to work our way through this crowd of horrible naughty rats until we can get through this gate they're protecting until a room with all the loot, which is all we're really here for. Again, I know some of you may want to drop an MTU to get all the wreck loot and then maybe salvage them just to maximise your return from each site, and that's entirely down to you. Again, if you've got time to get on Eve and do 1 or 2 sites, then yeah, you're going to want to maximise what you get out of each site. I prefer, as I say, you kind of hit and run, get onto the next site, get into the next fight, whatever it may be, rather than linger. Now, there are definitely exceptions to that. Some sites have very good loot knocking around. Some sites, it is direct loot that is the site loot, like the sleeper sites in the wormhole that we were doing. They're all dead, onto the last room. Nothing of note to report there at all. So what I think we're going to do going forward, we're going to have a couple of little challenges. Let me know in a comment if you think this might be fun. I don't want the videos obviously to get too repetitive. That would be dull for me, it would be dull for you. I'm just checking obviously what is in the last room. We don't want any naughty surprises. Always do that. Always bookmark something in a site as well. I'll show you in another video me losing loot from a watch site because I got distracted, had to warp away. And who knew that when you're in the last room of a watch, if you leave it, you can't get back in unless you've got a bookmark to go back to. Silly me. Anyway, where was I? Yeah. How about I find another dead site, 3 out of 10, Narcotics warehouse, and the challenge is to do the whole thing in the Thorax, but only using, say, antimatter ammo. I also want to go down and do it with the cheapest possible fit I can do, and then we'll go in the other direction as we find the more challenging and rewarding sites, hopefully. They're equally rewarding as they are challenging. We'll have to up the fit, maybe look at some Tech 2 weapons, a bit more bling, and something, well, I don't know about bling, but something a little bit more suited to a specific site. This fit is very much to roam, to clear them all, to get the escalations. You've got security of all the hit points that it's giving you, and the peace of mind that you've got that space in which to learn your trade, as it were. And once you're comfortable doing it in your Thorax, then why not build yourself a destroyer to do it in? It's a little bit more fun. It's a little bit more interactive because you've got to zoom in and out, and a little bit more range control involved, and you might take a bit more damage, and you might have the odd panic, but that's quite exciting. It's quite fun, I find. And when you have to kind of push yourself a little bit in a site, it's just helping you be a better pilot. As you see on these sites, I very rarely use approach unless it's like a wreck or a specific ship I need to just fly to, or like here, the acceleration gate into the fourth and final room. And I'm not expecting any great trouble. We're going to sit here, we're going to let them start coming out to us. We may start being a little bit braver in this room and see if we can actually get into armor at some stage, just to check the repairer works. But as you can see, I've just manually clicked in space just to get me flying diagonally across the front of this crowd. You zoom your view out, see where they are, see where they're moving, and just keep in your own little pocket of space. The drones and the guns are working beautifully. We're way over tanked, which is a nice position to be in. It'd be interesting to see, taking this into a 4 out of 10, how we get on there. So I shall look for one of those. So yeah, we'll get the Thorax in a 4 out of 10. We'll get it into maybe another 3 out of 10 using just antimatter, and we'll see what else I find out when we're out and about. And we'll certainly get into low sec and have a bit of a scout around there too. But I hope you you find that interesting. Do let me know. We're gonna do a little series of videos with the Thorax, just look at its evolution, how far we can push it. Any suggestions from you guys? Some of you probably use Thoraxes much more than I do, so I'm always happy to hear how you guys are doing it yourselves, and customizing your fit to your own play style and the application that's required. We got into armor there, as you would have seen as I was wittering, but that was basically because I let the rats get in close, and that's the way it's going to be. That was a little demonstration for you. And now it's just us. The last tower is killed. We blow the box to pieces. We take some screenshots while we're killing it. It does take a little while to kill it. Control and F9 is how you get rid of all your head-up display if you do want to play with your screenshots, and you can get some really nice stuff out of it, actually. I'm a little bit puzzled as to why the guns are firing in opposite directions, and it's because although the structure and your target point is a specific point in the site, the whole structure is the target, so it's not a glitch. This is what's supposed to be happening. Look, I'm not just shooting at the box that I've got targeted. I'm shooting all over the place, grinding it down. But it's quite a tough box. I have switched to antimatter. I'm not overheating the guns just to get to the loot. It's just to build the tension, really. This is the 4th escalation I ran in the last day or so. The last 3 all went very well. I was using different ships. I did them in the destroyers, but no loot. So I'm due one. So let's see. Come on, Loot Fairy. We've been good. Time-wise, the site's taken about half an hour. And it's exactly the same period of time it took to do them in the destroyers, because the destroyers have got a bit more DPS. It's just a question of keeping them safe. That's the work with the destroyer. But here we go. That's a very nice drop indeed. 96 million, so that's this Thorax paid for, and potentially 2 more. So this Thorax is now officially expendable. We can be very, very brave with it now. A nice drop there. Probably going to sell those rather than keep them. We'll see. Maybe that Type A adaptive nano membrane might be handy. But there you go. So guys, I'm going to leave you right here. Thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please let me know. Give it a like if you've liked it. Give me a comment. What do you reckon about my plan for the Thorax and its development and adventures? Take care of yourselves. Subscribe if you want to stay in touch. Do click that bell. There will be more EVE videos very soon. Some are already recorded, would you believe? But for now, guys, take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Remember, EVing is believing. And goodbye.